My name is Mara Whitfield, and I sew for a living stitches so small you have to lean in close to see what holds the cloth together. Tonight, I'm holding myself together with the same thread. The ballroom smells like sugared roses and floor polish. Candlelight floats in glass cylinders along the aisle. A violinist is sawing out something delicate that keeps snagging on my nerves. I'm supposed to sit in the second row, smile at the cameras, and let the night slide past like satin. I keep one hand pressed to the purple dress I made because it's too quiet to hear my heart without it. Tessa leans in her bouquet, brushing my sleeve. "Please," she whispers, not unkind at first, only tight. "Your dress is... it's old-fashioned. Don't embarrass us, okay?" The word us lands with more weight than any bead I've ever sewn. It means her family, whose name is printed in gold on the menu cards. It means my son standing handsome and unsure under the arch of peonies. It means me, somewhere outside the circle if I can't behave. I take one breath, then another. I feel the zipper teeth between my fingers, a ladder I have climbed 1,000 times in the mirror. When the music swells and the room tips toward applause for someone else's moment, I unhook the top clasp and draw the purple dress down. It pools at my feet like a quiet lake. Underneath is a quilted vest, pieces of my son's life sewn into a second skin. The gingham from his first school shirt, the denim knee from scraped-up summers, the navy ribbon from his graduation cap, a strip of flannel he used to tuck under his chin when sleep wouldn't come. The violin falters. Glass knocks against glass. My son's mouth opens. Tessa's bouquet lowers petals, trembling. I made this for him, I say, because someone has to explain why the past is standing here with the cake and the photographer, so he wouldn't forget where he came from. No one takes my arm when I step off the riser. That's all right. I steady myself on the memory of 100 hems and the clean weight of a needle in my palm. If dignity is a garment tonight, I'll wear the one I stitched. The morning after the wedding, my apartment smells like starch and black coffee. Sunlight stripes the floor through half-closed blinds. My purple dress hangs on the closet door, the hem brushing the wood as if it wants to apologize for last night and doesn't know how. The buzzer startles me. When I press the button, I hear Tessa's voice asking if I'm home. There's another woman beside her, calm-clipped, the kind who runs a charity gala and never breaks a nail doing it. I buzz them in. Tessa steps inside holding a paper bag. "Citrus tea," she says softly. Behind her comes Valerie, her aunt, the family's fixer. She surveys my sewing room like it's an unfinished draft. I offer coffee. She declines. She's not here for warmth. Valerie opens a sleek folder and slides a document across my cutting table right between my chalk lines. A goodwill gesture, she says. $10,000. Just a simple agreement, no more. Unexpected scenes. No press, no photos, no stories. Tessa's face reddens. "Aunt Val." "It's all right," I say, though my stomach tightens. "Go on. It's a win-win," Valerie continues. "You keep your privacy, they keep theirs." I read the page. The words are polite, almost kind, but underneath they bite. $10,000 would fix the Singer cover rent by piece for a little while, but the cost feels heavier than the number printed on the check. When Evan was small, I say he used to fill his pockets with gravel from the park and call it treasure. I washed my hands after emptying his pockets, because dust stays longer than gold. Tessa looks down. Valerie's pen hovers. I fold the paper neatly, tear it once, then again, until the pieces lie scattered across my cutting mat. The sound is small but final. Valerie's eyes harden. Tessa flinches. "You're making this difficult," Valerie says. I've done difficult before I answer. They leave without drinking the tea. When the door clicks shut, the apartment exhales. I stand still until the silence feels less like punishment and more like proof. My phone buzzes Evan. His voice is careful. "Mom, can we not make it worse?" "We can try." I say then, "Let the call go quiet." I take my blood pressure cuff from the drawer, wrap it around my arm, and watch the numbers rise, steady fall. In the quiet, the kettle starts to hum again. Outside, the garbage truck growls its way down the street. Life goes on noisy and unbothered, and I breathe until my hands stop shaking. By afternoon, the sunlight feels softer, the kind that forgives things. I'm sorting fabric when the bell over my door rings again. Tessa stands there, no aunt, no armor, just a paper cup and a nervous half-smile. "I shouldn't have come yesterday," she says. Or, "I shouldn't have brought her." I nod toward the chair by the window. "You can sit. The tea's probably cold, but I can warm it." She sits, eyes landing on the vest draped over the chair. Her fingers hover, then touch one square of navy ribbon. "Graduation," she murmurs. I've seen that photo, Evan grinning tassel sideways. He clenched his jaw that whole day, I say, afraid the hat would slide off before the picture. That earns a small laugh, and for a second she looks more like a girl than a woman trying to run a family's reputation. She studies the vest as though it might explain something about the man she married. "People are obsessed with keepsakes now," she says. "Memory quilts, baby clothes, blankets. It's everywhere. Feels like everyone's trying to hold on to something. Grief has good hands, I tell her. It just doesn't always know what to hold." She looks up, startled by the truth in it. Then quietly, "Would you ever sell your work or teach? You could help people like that turn what's left into something that stays." I smile. "I've never thought about selling. Sewing was always just breathing." "Well," she says, "breathing can be a business if it's honest." We talk for a while about colors, patterns, the kind of light that flatters cotton. She shows me a few photos on her phone, handmade blankets, trending online, messy but loved. I tell her I don't care for perfect symmetry, that life rarely gives you matching corners. When she leaves, the room feels lighter, like air has found its shape again. On the table, the vest catches the late sun and throws it back in soft squares. I stand still, watching how each patch glows a little differently, some bright, some faded, all true. I realize then that maybe she's right. Maybe what's broken can still earn a second life, one stitch at a time. Starting something new feels a lot like cutting into expensive fabric. You measure twice, breathe once, and hope your hands remember what your heart already knows. A week after Tessa's visit, my living room has turned into a workshop. The singer hums steady on the table, spools of thread line up like soldiers waiting for orders. It's chaos that finally makes sense. Tessa arrives early on Saturday with her laptop and that eager energy of someone who believes she can fix what's frayed. Evan follows, carrying boxes of fabric I'd stored in the basement, trying to hide his nerves behind small talk. We move carefully around one another, three people still learning the new rhythm of family. We decide to call it Whitfield Memory Quilts. The name feels both fragile and firm, like cloth pulled tight on a frame. Tessa sets up a simple website while I draw designs on tracing paper. Evan runs numbers, muttering about taxes and supplies, his practical mind anchoring my wandering one. Our first customer comes from across the street, a widow clutching a bag of her husband's old t-shirts. She cries while telling me which logos meant the most. I listen, touching each square like a heartbeat. Tessa photographs the process, hands, scissors, the trembling edge of cloth. No faces, only feeling. By evening, the three of us stand over the finished pattern, quiet, in that way people get when something sacred sneaks into an ordinary room. At my doctor's appointment that week, I hear the words I'd been circling around in my head: early-stage Alzheimer's. The doctor says sewing might help, that keeping the hands busy could keep the mind steady. I nod, pretending the air isn't thinner now. When I get home, Tessa's left a note on the counter. "We got another order. Someone saw the photo online. Proud of you." I press the note flat beneath a magnet, let the words anchor me. The machine sits waiting, loyal and loud. I thread the needle, the metal catching the light like a small promise. Every stitch I take feels like defiance, a way of saying I'm still here, still working, still remembering. The hum of the singer fills the apartment, steady and alive. For the first time in a long while, the noise in my head sounds like hope. Richard Albright walks into my life again on a Sunday evening, carrying a bottle of Merlot and 30 years of unfinished sentences. Tessa invited him and his family for dinner, a proper introduction, she called it. I didn't know until he stepped through the doorway and froze the same way I did. We both pretend well. I shake his hand. He compliments the roast. Evan raises an eyebrow, sensing something, but saying nothing. The conversation moves like a careful waltz weatherwork, the latest exhibit at the Cultural Center. Only once do our eyes meet, and in that flicker I see the young man who used to smell like cedar and cotton dust. After dessert, while Valerie talks about social standing and Tessa clears plates, Richard lingers by the sewing samples on my shelf. "Still the best with a needle," he says quietly. "You turned fabric into memory before anyone knew what that meant." I smile, polite and steady. Some things never go out of style. The evening ends with the right smiles and wrong silences. Later, Evan drives me home. The radio hums low, but his thoughts are louder. "There's chatter online," he says finally. "Comments about you. Something about the old textile mill stealing materials, using people. I know it's garbage, but it's out there. I don't ask who posted it. I already know who benefits from noise dressed as concern. The pattern fits Valerie too neatly." That night, I open the website Tessa built and scroll through the comments. The words are sharp, polished, written by someone who knows how to wound without leaving fingerprints. I breathe slow, like counting stitches, and remind myself that truth doesn't panic. The next morning, I knock on Tessa's door upstairs. She's still in her robe, hair messy, eyes worried. I tell her everything about the mill, about Richard, about how stories twist when people need them to. She listens, then reaches across the counter and takes my hand. "Then we tell our own story," she says. Out loud, the right way. And just like that, I realize she's not my enemy anymore. She's family learning like me how to mend what's been torn. The break-in isn't dramatic. No smashed window, no siren waking the street. Just the back door ajar at dawn and the quiet wrongness of a draft where a draft shouldn't be. I find it because I'm always the first one there, because morning is when the thread behaves. The front room is untouched. It's the workroom that tells the truth. The roll of batting unwound a drawer, dumped the pinned rows of river of memory, lifted and set back down as if the person wanted to be kind and couldn't. The worst of it is one long slice through the central panel, clean as a surgeon. Denim from a summer Evan spent falling off his bicycle. A strip of his kindergarten nap mat. The navy ribbon again, now separated from itself. I stand very still, the way you do when a glass tips on a ledge and you can't decide whether to catch or step back. Then I breathe and call the non-emergency number. A patrol car arrives with 2 officers who move carefully, ask the right questions, take photographs, and promise a report number by lunchtime. One of them recognizes my street from his grandmother's address and tells me he's sorry this happened. It matters that he says it without making it smaller. When the door closes behind them, I lock it, turn the sign to closed, and send a message to the family thread that only says, "Please come." Tessa arrives first with her hair unbrushed and her jaw set. Evan follows with coffee and a look that says he would rather fix than talk. I show them the cut, and my hands don't shake this time. Maybe the body saves the trembling for where it can do some good. "Can we repair it?" Tessa asks. "We can," I say, and the 2 words pull the day into a shape I can carry. We clear the table and lay the quilt flat. I pull a box from the shelf where I keep scraps that matter and find another piece of the kindergarten mat, sun-faded in the corner, but solid. I teach Tessa how to anchor a ladder stitch beneath the surface so the mend is strong and shy. Evan irons freezer paper to stabilize the long edge while I draw a line with chalk and cut along it slow as prayer. The sun moves across the floor in careful inches. We move with it. Maya, our part-time helper, arrives and takes over the machine, her line straight and steady. We split the night into sections, repair, reinforce, rebind. I set the final schedule where everyone can see it and hand out the little jobs that look like nothing and keep the world from slipping. Fill bobbins, trim tails, check the corners for puckers. Richard stops by once with a bundle of indigo he insists is leftover from a donation to the art center. He leaves it on the stoop and doesn't come in because sometimes kindness is best delivered without an audience. At 2 a.m, the room smells like steam and thread, and the first hour after a storm. We turn the quilt over, and the men's hold. They're not invisible. I don't want them to be. A repair should teach you where not to tug next time. We pack River of Memory into the clean muslin bag I made for it and write the delivery slip by hand. The application for the State Craft Fair is already in the acceptance folded in my wallet. Evan volunteers to drive the piece across town at 9 sharp. Tessa drafts a note to our customers about delayed orders and refuses to apologize for caring about the work that will feed the work. When the clock on the wall reaches 3, I sit back and let my shoulders drop. There's a shadow of tiredness in the glass door, and it looks like all 3 of us. I take a picture of the quilt in the first pale light, the mended line a river that learned a bend it didn't plan on. Then I shut off the machine and listen to the room go quiet in stages like a shop learning how to sleep. The state craft fair smells like kettle corn and sawdust, and the soft hum of people buying what reminds them they have hands. Our booth is a square of canvas and hope. River of Memory hangs against a white wall that makes her blues vivid. Tessa arranges a small sign that says, "Please ask before touching," and Evan stands beside the payment box like a gentleman at a dance. Crowds move the way crowds do, slow at first, then curious, then circling. A woman reaches out, stops herself, and asks if she may lay a palm against the denim. I nod, and when she does, she closes her eyes not for the photograph, but for herself. She tells a teenager with glitter on her eyelids that her father worked second shift at the old mill and that denim still holds the smell of the dye if you heat it with your hands. The judges make their rounds with clipboards and polite faces. When they stop in front of River of Memory, one of them puts her pen down and asks who designed the flow. I tell her we did together, that rivers have to be believed to be followed, and she smiles as if she has something in her pocket she isn't ready to hand over. When the announcements come, they happen the way they always do in rooms like this. A voice a little too loud, applause in bursts, a child who doesn't care about winners, dragging a balloon on the floor. River of Memory takes an innovation ribbon that looks more modest than it feels. The fair posts the winners and the local paper posts a link, and somehow between those 2 simple acts, the orders multiply. Not just the orders, the stories. An email from a man who kept his mother's house dress in a drawer for 19 years. A message from a nurse who wants to turn scrubs from a retired unit into a wall hanging for the break room. Proof that grief and joy both need containers. Lakeview Cultural Center reaches out with a request for a small exhibit built around our piece. They want to call it Threads of Time, and all I have to do is breathe to say yes. We set dates, collect labels, and hang the quilts with fishing line that disappears the way good work can if you do it right. On opening night I wear black because it disappears too. Lights warm the cotton without scorching it. There's a murmur, the way there is in a church when people are deciding how loud their awe should be. Richard stands at a polite distance and talks to a curator about textile heritage while pretending not to watch me. The room starts to tilt a soft askew, and I know the feeling. I sit, swallow a pill, and count backward until my pulse matches the metronome in my wrist. When I stand again, the applause isn't for me, but I let a little of it land where I am. A man in a Union jacket tells his grandson about shuttle looms, and the boy listens the way children do when the story has tools in it. I look at River of Memory and at the thin, bright scar of the mend, and I think about how some triumphs are quiet, but not small. I think about how a river can still be a river after it learns a new turn. I smile for a camera I don't see, and for the life I do. The snow comes early, fat flakes drifting like they forgot how to fall quietly. Tessa's call wakes me before the plows. Her voice is calm, but the calm you use to steady someone else. The contractions are close enough that the time for pretending we have time is over. Evan is on his way back from a client 2 towns over. I tell her I'm coming upstairs, and then I'm already there helping her into boots and a coat while the sky goes white. We take my Subaru because old things can be counted on when the weather turns. I call the hospital on speaker and tell the nurse what we're bringing and how fast it's coming. The roads are a slow-moving belt. I keep us steady, and Tessa keeps breathing, and the heater keeps its promise. In the passenger seat, she holds my forearm the way a person holds the edge of a pool while the wave passes. At Harrington General, the triage nurse knows our names. They tuck Tessa into a room that smells like lemon and courage. Evan arrives with snow in his hair, an apology in every pocket, which Tessa empties with a look. I step back and let them be a pair inside a circle, and I take the vest from my bag because I brought it without thinking, because sometimes protection is as simple as cloth against a chest. Hours are elastic in places like this. The monitor draws a gentle mountain range. The doctor says ready, and the room becomes a choreography that doesn't need rehearsal. When the baby cries the first time, it sounds like a zipper being pulled on a tent, and the whole world coming in. 2 weeks later, Richard asks me to walk with him by the frozen edge of Lake Harrington. He doesn't kneel. He doesn't speech. He says he wants to show up every morning and introduce himself again if he has to. I say yes because I believe him, and because I'm tired of saying no to good things out of habit. On the day we sign papers in a small room with a plant that refuses to die, I wear a quilted dress stitched from my own history work aprons, a Sunday blouse, the sleeve of a shirt I love to ruin with chalk. We take a picture on the steps, and Evan holds his son up to the weak sun, and Tessa laughs without watching herself. Snow clicks against the railing. The vest warms my ribs. If dignity is a garment, I am learning how to line it for winter.